When the snow fell fiercely and the world seemed to disappear, Sumina, a young native woman, struggled to survive on the way back to her tribe. Exhausted and fearful, she encountered Leandro, a lone cowboy, who decided to risk everything to save her. Amid storms, dangers, and ancient secrets, an undeniable bond was born, where adventure and a silent romance intertwined with every icy step. The snow had already erased the world when the story truly began, not falling at random, but descending with purpose, dense and infinite, as if the sky had decided that memory itself was too heavy to hold. Her girl, 20 years old, her curly hair stiffened by ice and pain, walked along the narrow white path her people called the snow trail, though no one ever traveled it twice. Each step sank into powder reaching her calves, and each breath burned her lungs like a silent punishment. And yet she moved forward because stopping had already been decided by herself. She had not been expelled from her tribe with shouts or raised hands. That would have been easier. Instead, she had been given carefully spoken words, ancient, heavy with tradition. The peace treaty with the white settlement was older than her name, older than her grandmother's songs. And under its law, a woman found in the company of a white man was considered a fracture in the world. Her girl had tried to speak, always tried. She was the translator at the town school, the one who built bridges with words, but no language could translate fear. They said she had betrayed her people by revealing secrets to a cowboy, and though the truth was smaller and braver, she had only helped save the life of an injured child. Truth does not always survive ceremony. Return by the snow trail, said the elders. If you live, the spirits will have purified you. So she walked, not fleeing the law or men, but the verdict of her own blood, while the storm closed in around her like held breath. Her legs failed long before her will. Her girl stumbled, clutched at the icy air, and fell to her knees, the cold climbing into her bones with infinite patience. Fever blurred her vision, transforming the white world into something distant and unreal. She thought of the chalk in the classroom, the laughing children, a hot stew she would never finish. Desperation gnawed at her thoughts, and yet an instinct kept her moving, clinging to life, and just as darkness began to tilt over her, she saw a silhouette moving against the storm, impossible and real at the same time. Leandro, 30 years old, had lived listening more than speaking, and that habit saved him. Now he sensed the strange in the wind, the sound of breathing where there should be none, and guided his horse there without understanding why. Seeing his girl collapsed in the snow, her dark hair against the white, he felt something settle in his chest, heavy and inevitable. She lifted her face, eyes glassy with fever, and whispered, "Please, take me with you. I can't walk anymore." The words were not dramatic, they were definitive. Leandro knew the town's rules, knew what she represented from the shape of her cheekbones, in the language of her eyes, and he knew the cost of involving himself in her life. Yet his hands moved anyway, lifting her from the snow as if denying her help would destroy him. The storm swallowed their tracks as he turned the horse toward home, carrying a stranger who already felt like an irreversible decision. By the time they reached the healer's cabin, his girl was burning with heat flowing from her skin, as if the storm had injected fire into her bones instead of cold. Her breaths were shallow and irregular, each one fighting small battles she seemed determined to win, even unconsciously. Marta, Leandro's aunt, opened the door before he could knock. The lantern's light caught the silver in her hair and understanding in her eyes. She observed the young woman in Leandro's arms, the bluish tone of her lips, the trembling running through her thin body, and said nothing. It was in that heavy, resolute silence that Leandro understood she would help, because Marta only wasted words on doubts she had no intention of holding. The cabin soon filled with the aromas of crushed herbs, boiling water, smoke, and old whispered prayers more with breath than sound. Leandro stayed outside as instructed, standing in the night while it thickened around him, snow piling on his shoulders, on his hat, on his determination. Inside, his girl spoke in her sleep, her voice breaking in a language Leandro did not know, rising and falling like a wounded song. Though he did not understand her words, each syllable sounded like loss, like a home calling someone already gone. and the sound reached his chest anyway, lodging behind his ribs. He waited there in the snow because waiting was all he had left, because leaving felt unthinkable. When Marta finally stepped out, boots softly crunching over the frozen ground, she did not rush the news. She looked at Leandro for a long moment, as if measuring the man he had been against the one he was becoming, then simply said, "The fever had subsided." Leandro nodded, as if that was what he had always expected, though his hands shook so much he had to clench them into fists to hide it. Relief did not come as joy, but as release, a sudden looseness that left him weak. He returned to his own cabin, lay fully clothed at the edge of the bed, and discovered sleep had completely abandoned him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face half buried in the snow, eyelashes frozen, lips moving, a plea that asked for no heroism, only mercy. He heard again the quiet certainty in her voice. "Please, take me with you." And he felt the weight of having answered yes. Before dawn even thought of breaking, he was back at his aunt's door, standing in the cold, only to see his girl breathe, needing proof that choosing her had not been a dream the storm would take when the light returned. Morning arrived not with warmth, but with judgment, pale and sharp as the snow itself. His girl awoke slowly, confusion clouding her dark eyes, and shame broke in before memory could soften the edges. She tried to sit up too quickly when she saw Leandro near, as if apologizing with her body for the trouble her existence had caused. The movement made her stagger, and without thinking, he extended a hand, holding her carefully, almost reverently, as if she was something fragile and rare. He told her his name in a low voice, and when she repeated it, the sound in her mouth made something inside him shift. She told him hers in turn, his girl and the way she held him as learned truth stayed with him. Outside, the town whispered. Restlessness traveled faster than the wind through thin walls and closed doors. The presence of a waking native woman stirred old fears the people pretended no longer to carry. Marta warned him softly, in a low, practical voice, speaking of consequences and safety. But Leandro was already sure, if the town turned cruel, he would take his girl away, where fear would not know to find her, because some decisions arrive complete, indisputable, and refuse to be negotiated the instant they are made. The cabin Leandro took her to sat at the edge of nowhere, where the world seemed to thin and fall into silence, isolated by snow, its windows glowing softly against the white. If you don't want to miss our content, hit the like button and subscribe using the button below. Also, turn on the notification bell and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. We appreciate your support. The interior of the cabin was filled with a warmth that seemed to defy the storm outside. His girl lay on a thick blanket, breathing with difficulty, while Leandro moved with silent precision, preparing remedies and adjusting the blankets to wrap her in protection and care. The crackling of the fire set a steady rhythm that filled the silences, and his girl listened attentively, feeling her heart beat in time. Leandro's presence, firm and patient, gave her a sense of security she had never experienced before. When she opened her eyes, the soft light illuminated her face, revealing the delicacy of her features and the determination hidden behind her fear. Leandro remained at her side with a gentle expression, as if his mere gaze could dispel the storm she carried within. His girl extended a trembling hand seeking contact, and he held it softly, feeling the warmth escaping from her skin. That touch, so simple and human, marked the beginning of a bond that promised something deeper than mere gratitude. For hours, conversation was minimal, limited to whispers and precise words, yet each word, loaded with intention, served as a thread binding them together, weaving a silent understanding between two souls, recognizing each other amidst the relentless cold. Leandro told her stories of his days on the ranch, of horses that had escaped, and nights spent under starry skies. His girl listened, fascinated, noticing how his world, though different from hers, shared the same passion for life and survival. She responded with tales of her tribe, of ancient ceremonies and forest secrets unknown to anyone else. Her voice became melodic as she described the landscapes of her childhood, and Leandro, attentive, felt the snow outside lose its strength in the warmth of her story. As the night advanced, Leandro prepared a hot drink, brought it to his girl, and held it in her hands as she drank. Their fingers brushed, a light contact that left a trail of electricity, and both smiled shyly at the unexpected spark between them. Marta watched silently from a corner, recognizing that something special was forming, something that could not be captured or predicted. Her experience told her that when two souls met under extreme circumstances, trust wove itself faster than in times of calm. The wind battered the cabin outside, but within, the storm seemed less threatening. His girl began to feel stronger, buoyed by Leandro's warmth and constant attention, who allowed no shiver to go unnoticed without careful care. As the days passed, Leandro taught her to recognize signs in the weather, to interpret the movement of the trees, and to anticipate when the snow would turn treacherous. His girl absorbed every lesson with fascination, admiring his patience and precision in every gesture. In turn, Suina taught words from her language, describing concepts that had no equivalent in Spanish. Leandro listened with reverence, trying to reproduce the sounds and understanding that each word carried centuries of culture and contained emotion. Physical contact became a subtle dance. Passing a cup, adjusting a blanket, accidentally touching her shoulder. Every gesture was measured, filled with growing intimacy that both accepted without haste, without need for words, letting closeness speak for them. One afternoon, the snow eased a little, and they decided to venture outside, only to feel the vastness of a world covered in white. His girl leaned on Leandro as they walked. Each step was a reminder that together they could face any storm, literal or figurative. They found animal tracks in the snow, and Leandro explained how to read them, teaching her to anticipate movements and dangers. His girl learned eagerly, enjoying the mix of practical knowledge and play that made survival something shared and exciting. Reaching a small clearing, sunlight filtering through clouds lit the snow, and for a moment the world seemed suspended. She turned to Leandro and saw something in his eyes she could not describe, a mixture of respect, tenderness, and care. In that instant, the tension of the previous days dissolved, replaced by a feeling that went beyond gratitude. Both understood they had found in each other a refuge, a place where vulnerability and strength coexisted without fear or judgment. That night, back in the cabin, conversation became lighter. They laughed at past stories, shared childhood memories, and marveled at the similarities emerging between seemingly different worlds. Each laugh was another brick in the bridge they were building between them. While his girl slept, Leandro watched her carefully, making sure she rested well. The fever had gone, but fear remained, and his protective instinct would not let him leave, as if his mere presence could ensure that nothing bad would happen again. Upon waking, his girl found Leandro already prepared for the day, the firewood ready and tasks assigned. She smiled at his dedication, and she noticed how constant care had become a silent language, a way of saying, "I care," without pronouncing it. During the morning, they performed tasks together, fetching water, chopping wood, preparing food. Every shared action was an act of cooperation and trust, reinforcing the bond woven in the intimacy of the cabin and the vast, snow-covered expanse surrounding them. In the afternoon, they decided to explore a nearby trail that led to a small, partially frozen stream. His girl, fascinated by the sun's reflection on the ice, walked carefully while Leandro stayed by her side, always alert to any slip or imbalance. The stream became a temporary refuge. Sitting on snow-covered rocks, they shared comfortable silences, glances charged with something they still did not dare to name. The adventure had created complicity, and the snow granted them privacy in a world that seemed to have forgotten them. Returning to the cabin, night fell under a blanket of stars. His girl and Leandro walked together, shoulder to shoulder, feeling the peace of each other's company. Every word, every gesture, every laugh had woven an invisible web connecting them beyond cold and fear. That first week together was intense and revealing. They learned to trust, to protect, to share space and silences. The adventure of surviving the storm had given way to the adventure of getting to know each other, and each day they discovered unexpected nuances in one another. As the storm raged in the distance, his girl and Leandro understood that what they had found was not just safety or rescue, but something deeper, the promise of standing side by side through any storm, physical or emotional. The next morning dawned with a clear sky that contrasted with the previous storm. His girl and Leandro took the opportunity to explore the nearby woods, where the trees were covered in frost and the air smelled of damp earth and wood. The sound of cracking branches under their boots filled the silence. His girl moved cautiously, learning to interpret the signs of nature. Leandro guided her, teaching her to read animal tracks and to sense changes in the weather before they became obvious. In a clearing, they found a group of deer, their white bodies almost camouflaged in the snow. His girl held her breath, fascinated by the delicacy of the animals. Leandro showed her how to approach without disturbing them, and their hands brushed as he adjusted her scarf. The contact was brief but meaningful. The electricity of the moment mingled with the thrill of exploration. Both smiled shyly, aware of the growing intimacy between them, woven by trust and shared adventure. They continued walking, discovering a partially frozen stream. His girl leaned down to touch the water. Surprised by the cold that pierced her fingers, Leandro held her by the waist to prevent her from slipping, and she rested her head on his shoulder for a silent moment. The sun reflected off the ice in sparkling flashes that seemed to dance. His girl and Leandro sat on a rock, enjoying the moment without words. The calm of the landscape contrasted with the tension they had experienced days before, creating a shared space of peace. As they rested, they heard a distant howl cut through the air. Both stood immediately, alert. The sound was strange and close, a reminder that nature could be as beautiful as it was dangerous, and that every step needed care. They ventured cautiously among the trees, following the direction of the howl. His girl, though frightened, leaned on Leandro with confidence. The feeling of being protected while adventuring filled her with a mix of fear and excitement that quickened her heart. They finally found a wolf trapped among branches and ice. Its paw was injured, and it panted with difficulty. His girl leaned down, recalling the healing rituals of her tribe, while Leandro held the animal firmly. Together, they began freeing it with care and patience. Once free, the wolf looked at them with piercing eyes before disappearing among the trees. His girl felt deeply connected to the life around her, and Leandro, observing her emotion, understood the strength and sensitivity that made her unique. Returning to the cabin, his girl was more lively than ever. She shared stories of wolves and their symbolism in her culture while Leandro listened, fascinated by the depth of her knowledge. Each story brought their worlds closer, merging the wild with the everyday. That night, as the snow fell again, Leandro prepared dinner and his girl helped him. Their hands brushed constantly, each touch charged with intimacy. The simple act of cooking became an act of closeness and mutual discovery. The fire illuminated their faces as they shared the meal, and his girl told stories of her childhood, ceremonies and legends of her people. Leandro listened attentively to every word, his admiration and growing affection for her felt without needing to be spoken. After dinner, they walked together outside the cabin. The snow glistened under the moonlight, creating a silent, magical scene. His girl rested her hand on Leandro's arm, and he wrapped her gently, not rushing the moment. They walked to a small cliff from which they could view the valley. His girl, captivated by the beauty of the landscape, took a deep breath. Leandro watched her in silence, admiring the way she absorbed the world with wonder, and something warm bloomed in his chest, deep and silent. The wind blew cold, but the closeness between them created a different warmth. Leandro took her hand, and this time his girl did not withdraw hers. They stayed like that, watching the expanse of snow and trees, understanding that together they could face any challenge. The day's adventure had strengthened their connection. They had shared fear, awe, and care. Every gesture, every glance, every casual brush was a step in a dance of intimacy and trust neither wanted to interrupt. Returning to the cabin, they were greeted by its familiar warmth. His girl settled near the fire, and Leandro sat beside her, sharing the blanket. Neither needed words. The closeness was enough to understand what they felt without saying it. During the night, his girl dreamed of the forests, animals, and snow, but also of Leandro, his figure constant, protective, and patient. Upon waking, she felt a sense of calm, a hint that something deeper than rescue was beginning to emerge. Leandro rose early, preparing hot tea. His girl watched him, admiring his routine and discipline, and how these qualities blended with the tenderness he showed her. Her heart beat in anticipation of what they still did not dare to name. That morning, they decided to venture into a denser forest, following tracks that his girl recognized as deer and rabbits. Each step was a lesson, and each lesson a closer bond. They taught each other to trust one another's instincts. In a clearing, his girl found a fallen bird's nest. The tiny beaks moved weakly. Carefully, she and Leandro repositioned the nest and covered the chicks with leaves, teaching patience, compassion, and shared care, reinforcing their connection. The day continued with improvised games in the snow. They rolled, gently pushed each other, and laughed, releasing the tension accumulated from days of survival. This unexpected lightness strengthened their relationship, showing that even amid danger, joy could arise. As evening fell, they returned with a sense of accomplishment. They had explored, protected life, and learned from each other. The experience brought them closer, establishing a foundation of trust and respect vital for facing any future storm. His girl, exhausted but happy, settled by the fire while Leandro tended to the wood. The atmosphere was filled with safety and closeness, an intimacy born from shared adventure and mutual care that they both began to value deeply. The night ended with a comfortable silence, interrupted only by the crackle of the fire and the wind outside. His girl reclined, and Leandro, without thinking, draped an arm over her shoulders. The gesture was subtle, but loaded with meaning, a silent promise of protection and closeness. The day had been one of discovery and complicity, and both understood that the snow and the storm had not only brought them together, but had taught them to trust in each other's strength. The adventure was turning into romance, delicate and genuine, in every glance and touch. Dawn brought a golden light filtering through the frost-covered trees. Sumina breathed deeply, feeling the cold air in her lungs, while Leandro adjusted the horse's saddle. Every movement seemed choreographed by routine and newly formed trust. They decided to venture toward the frozen river that wound near the cabin. The snow crunched under their boots, and the silent, vast landscape reminded them how small they were in the face of nature. Yet together, each step felt safer, firmer. His girl watched as Leandro read the forest signs, anticipating weather changes and potential dangers. Her respect and admiration grew with every gesture, realizing that he was not only her protector, but also her guide in a world she was just beginning to understand. Midway, they encountered a fallen log blocking the path. His girl and Leandro went around it, but as they crossed, the ice under their feet gave slightly. He reacted immediately, holding her firmly to prevent a fall, and their eyes met with silent intensity, sharing fear and relief. The river stretched before them, partially frozen, with cracks reflecting the sunlight. His girl leaned to touch the water, fascinated by its cold transparency, while Leandro stayed close, vigilant, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. His constant presence was a silent anchor. As they moved on, they discovered recent tracks of a deer and a wolf. His girl recalled stories from her tribe about the balance between predators and prey. Leandro listened intently, understanding the wisdom of her culture and the way she interpreted the world through symbols and signs. The wind began to intensify, and snow swirled again. His girl huddled close to Leandro, who wrapped an arm around her waist, guiding her carefully. The physical closeness mingled with excitement, making every shared moment feel more precious than any words. They took shelter behind a giant oak, while the storm roared around them. His girl, shivering, rested her forehead against Leandro's chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling how his human warmth protected her from the cold and uncertainty surrounding them. After a few minutes, the storm eased slightly. They emerged from their shelter and continued, but now each step was more mindful. His girl learned to trust her instincts and Leandro's guidance, and the sense of cooperation bound them in a way that transcended words. In a small clearing, they found an injured deer. His girl ran to it, recalling the healing rituals of her tribe. Leandro followed, helping her support the animal while she cleaned the wound and applied an improvised bandage with skill and delicacy. The deer, once cared for, watched them for a moment before fleeing into the forest. His girl smiled, satisfied with her success, while Leandro admired her compassion and bravery. The experience strengthened their bond, showing that together they could face the most unexpected challenges. Walking back, Sumina and Leandro shared laughter and comments about what had happened, enjoying the lightness after danger. The adventure strengthened their relationship, and every subtle gesture of mutual care increased the intimacy they felt without words. Upon returning to the cabin, the crackle of the fire greeted them. His girl settled near the hearth, and Leandro sat beside her. The silence was comfortable, filled with understanding and affection, a safe space where they could simply be together without outside expectations. Marta watched silently, recognizing that something special was growing between them. It was not explicit love yet, but a connection based on trust, respect, and a deep care that could only arise after overcoming trials and sharing intense experiences. That afternoon, as snow fell gently, they decided to practice archery with the bow Leandro had brought. His girl, clumsy at first, improved quickly under his guidance, and their hands touched when adjusting the string, provoking smiles and a contact that heightened the romantic tension. After training, they sat in the snow, exhausted and dusted with white powder. His girl rested her head on his shoulder, and Leandro wrapped an arm around her waist. The physical closeness was no longer casual. There was a silent understanding of protection and attraction. Twilight found them contemplating the vast, snow-covered valley. Sumina spoke of her tribe's myths about winter spirits, and Leandro listened, fascinated. Each story revealed not only her culture, but also the depth of her sensitivity and connection to nature. During the night, the cabin filled with the aroma of a stew they had prepared together. Their hands met as they passed utensils, and their soft laughter filled the space. Routine became ritual, and affection became something tangible and silent. While dining, they shared memories of their childhoods, of fears and joys that had shaped their lives. The deep conversation drew them closer, showing that beyond the initial rescue lay an emotional ground where they could be vulnerable and authentic. After dinner, they chose to walk under the moonlight, illuminating the snow with a ghostly glow. Their shadows mingled, and as they walked together, the sense of unity and trust became more evident, as if each step was an unspoken commitment to care for each other. At one point, his girl tripped over a hidden root. Leandro held her firmly, bringing his face close to hers. Their eyes met, charged with emotion. No words were needed. The brief contact sealed a connection that grew with every shared experience. The wind blew cold, but their close bodies created warmth. His girl rested her head on his chest, and Leandro looked down at her, admiring her bravery and delicacy. Each moment together solidified an affection that was tender, intense, and promising. Before returning, his girl pointed out a small set of tracks in the snow and explained how to recognize them. Leandro listened attentively, enjoying every lesson. The way she understood the world fascinated him and reinforced his admiration for her intelligence and spirit. Returning to the cabin, the night's silence was comforting. His girl and Leandro settled near the fire, their hands brushing accidentally as they arranged blankets and utensils. Physical closeness became increasingly natural, a prelude to a romantic bond that still needed no words. That night, as the storm raged in the distance, Sumina and Leandro shared a moment of contemplation by the window. They watched the snow fall endlessly, and both understood that, despite difficulties, together they could face any adversity the world presented. Dawn brought a colder, almost biting air, and his girl woke with the feeling that something in the forest was calling them. Leandro watched her as she bundled up, noticing the mix of determination and curiosity shining in her dark eyes. They decided to explore a more remote trail, one barely distinguishable under the fresh snow. Every step was calculated, and the vast solitude of the forest enveloped them. His girl felt alive, excited and nervous, while Leandro stayed close, offering security without taking away her autonomy. They found a fallen log that served as a bridge over a small stream. His girl leaned over to examine the water, and Leandro held her at the waist to maintain balance. Their bodies brushed, and an unexpected warmth ran through both of them, silent but intense. Further ahead, they discovered deep tracks in the snow they did not recognize immediately. His girl crouched to examine them carefully, and Leandro watched, fascinated by her skill in reading nature. It was a lesson in respect and patience, a learning that silently bonded them. The wind began to blow fiercely, carrying the snow in gusts. His girl instinctively sought shelter behind Leandro, who wrapped a firm arm around her. The physical closeness, though brief, spoke of protection and trust, building a bond that no danger could break. As they approached a clearing, a lone wolf appeared, watching them cautiously. His girl stepped back, and Leandro positioned himself in front, assessing the situation. The wolf evaluated them, and tension filled the air. Every movement was measured, a silent dance of respect and survival. After a few moments, the wolf withdrew, leaving behind an air of mystery and mutual respect. His girl exhaled, feeling the thrill of the encounter while Leandro admired her calm and bravery. The adventure reinforced the trust between them, and something deeper began to emerge. They continued moving through the forest, each step more confident. His girl learned to anticipate movements in the environment, read signals, and trust her instincts. Leandro watched, surprised by how quickly she absorbed knowledge and adapted, strengthening their emotional connection. In a wider clearing, they found tracks of a deer and a fox. His girl explained the difference with enthusiasm, and Leandro listened attentively, impressed by the richness of her knowledge. Each explanation was a bridge between their worlds, full of admiration and tenderness. The sun began to set, and the snow turned golden under its light. His girl and Leandro paused, observing the landscape. The immensity of the forest enveloped them, and in that shared silence, they understood that adventure and intimacy could coexist intensely and naturally. As night fell, they found a small natural shelter made of rocks and fallen branches. His girl and Leandro decided to rest there. They built a small fire with dry branches, and the dancing light illuminated their faces, showing a silent and growing connection between them. While the fire crackled, Sumina told Leandro stories of her tribe about the spirits of the forest and snow. He listened, fascinated, absorbing every detail. The way she narrated was hypnotic, and the adventure took on a more mystical and romantic tone. Leandro shared stories of his life on the ranch, of lost horses and starry nights he remembered with nostalgia. His girl listened, fascinated by the simplicity and courage of his world. Each story brought them closer, building silent complicity and affection. The wind picked up and snow pelted their improvised shelter. Leandro held his girl close, protecting her. The closeness became a natural gesture, needing no words, and they both understood that the bond connecting them strengthened in adversity, forging trust and affection. The next day, they decided to follow a frozen stream winding through the forest. Every slip or balance adjustment became a game of closeness and mutual care. His girl leaned on Leandro, and he guided her patiently, teaching her to trust her instincts. During the walk, they found a fallen nest with baby birds trembling from the cold. His girl and Leandro worked together to reposition it and cover it with leaves and branches. Each movement was delicate and synchronized, reinforcing the cooperation and intimacy born from their shared adventure. The day progressed, and they decided to explore a nearby hill. His girl moved ahead with curiosity, and Leandro followed, attentive to each step. When she tripped over a hidden root, he caught her, bringing their faces close for a moment. Their eyes met, and silence said more than words ever could. From the top, they surveyed a snow-covered valley. The view was breathtaking and silent. His girl rested her hand on Leandro's arm, and he gently wrapped an arm around her. The physical and emotional connection became increasingly evident, filled with affection and tenderness. They decided to descend carefully, enjoying the thrill and adrenaline of the adventure. Every step was a test of trust and collaboration, and their complicity transformed into something deeper, a silent affection full of implicit promises. Returning to the cabin, night wrapped them in a blanket of stars and cold. His girl approached the fire, and Leandro arranged blankets and utensils. Shared routine became ritual, and closeness grew more natural and meaningful. During dinner, they shared laughter and comments about the day's adventures. Every accidental brush of hands or prolonged glance reinforced their connection. Their relationship needed no words. Affection and attraction manifested in every gesture and shared detail. That night, Sumina and Leandro gazed at the sky from the cabin. The starlight reflected on the snow, and their eyes met, charged with emotion. Both understood that the adventure had united them irrevocably, and their affection grew with each challenge overcome. Falling asleep near the fire, a sense of safety and closeness enveloped them. Every shared breath was a reminder that together they could face any adversity. The storm outside became irrelevant compared to the warmth of their budding intimacy. The next morning, his girl woke before Leandro, watching the wind move the snow gently. Her heart beat with anticipation and curiosity, knowing each day would bring new challenges and adventures, and that her closeness with Leandro would deepen with each shared experience. Leandro got up and prepared hot tea. His girl watched silently, enjoying his routine and the dedication he showed in every action. Their affection solidified, and the adventure of the previous day had brought them closer in a deep, romantic way. Before leaving, they decided to plan their exploration of a denser forest, following animal tracks and discovering new trails. Every decision was made together, strengthening trust and allowing adventure and romance to intertwine with natural, silent passion. The morning arrived, wrapped in a blanket of fog that covered the forest like a veil. His girl and Leandro prepared to venture into unfamiliar terrain. Each step crunched on the fresh snow, reminding them that nature was unpredictable and majestic. They decided to follow the course of a partially frozen river, trusting it to guide them toward new discoveries. His girl learned to interpret the rhythm of the water and the direction of the wind, while Leandro watched her skill and felt proud of her silent, courageous strength. At a bend in the river, they found a deer trapped among branches and ice. His girl approached cautiously, recalling her tribe's rituals to ease the pain of animals. Leandro held the broken branch so she would not get hurt. After several attempts, they managed to free the deer, which ran into the forest. His girl exhaled with relief and smiled shyly at Leandro, who looked at her with admiration and a deep feeling that needed no words, a connection growing with each shared action. They continued walking to a small clearing where the wind created whirls of snow. His girl and Leandro stopped, watching the flakes spin around them, creating an almost magical scene. The beauty of the moment made them feel inseparable, as if they were part of the landscape. Suddenly, a howl echoed nearby, followed by the snapping of branches. His girl tensed, and Leandro wrapped an arm around her, protecting her. Together, they analyzed the source of the sound and decided to approach cautiously, aware that the forest held secrets that could be dangerous. They found a wolf trapped in an abandoned snare. His girl crouched, extending a hand to calm the injured animal, while Leandro worked to release the trap. The silence around them was filled with tension, fear, and a shared respect for wildlife. Once freed, the wolf looked at them with piercing eyes before disappearing among the trees. His girl and Leandro exchanged glances, smiling at the thrill and relief. Each encounter with nature strengthened their trust and closeness, making them realize they could depend on each other. As they moved on, the snow began falling more heavily. His girl leaned toward Leandro, resting her head on his shoulder as they walked. The storm surrounded them, and their closeness became a silent refuge where they could share fear, warmth, and growing affection. They discovered a small natural shelter among rocks and bushes. They decided to stop and build an improvised fire. The warm light illuminated their faces, showing fatigue, admiration, and a silent bond. His girl smiled, grateful for Leandro's protection and the sense of security he provided. While the fire crackled, Sumina recounted stories from her tribe about winter spirits and forest guardians. Leandro listened, fascinated, absorbing every word and understanding the depth of her world. Adventure intertwined with romance, and their emotional bond strengthened with each shared story. They decided to rest near the fire. His girl leaned on his shoulder, and Leandro wrapped an arm around her, keeping her warm. The closeness was natural and silent, a tacit promise of protection and affection that both began to understand without words. The wind roared outside, but inside the improvised shelter, time seemed to stand still. Every gesture, every touch of hands or lingering glance consolidated their intimacy. Adventure, danger, and proximity had woven a silent affection that blossomed between them without hurry. The next morning, snow had covered everything with a fresh, bright layer. His girl and Leandro resumed their walk, following tracks that indicated the presence of animals and traces of life. Each discovery strengthened their complicity and heightened the thrill of exploring together. They found a wounded fox trapped among low branches. His girl and Leandro worked together to free it, their hands often brushing during the process. Each touch was brief but full of meaning, a reminder of the intimacy that came from sharing adventure and caring for life. After freeing the fox, his girl smiled at Leandro with gratitude. He responded with a look full of tenderness and affection. The feeling of complicity grew stronger with each shared challenge. Both understood that their bond had transcended mere adventure to become something deep and romantic. They ventured into a denser forest, following a trail covered in fresh snow. The walk was difficult, but each stumble or balance adjustment became a game of closeness. His girl leaned on Leandro, and he guided her with patience and care. At a partially frozen stream, they decided to stop and examine the area. His girl pointed out details about tracks and signs of animals, while Leandro listened attentively. Every gesture, every exchange strengthened their trust and cultivated a silent but powerful attraction. During the afternoon, an unexpected storm surprised them. They took refuge under a large oak, shielding themselves from wind and snow. His girl held onto Leandro, and he wrapped his shoulders around her firmly. The closeness became necessary and comforting, blending affection with survival. As the storm raged, they talked about their lives and fears. Sumina spoke of her past, loss, and resilience, and Leandro shared memories of his childhood and the harshness of life on the ranch. The shared vulnerability bound them beyond the adventure. When the storm eased, they decided to return to the shelter they had found the night before. Every step toward the cabin was guided by mutual care. His girl trusted Leandro completely, and he felt responsible and protective, aware that their connection was deeper than any danger. Upon arrival, they relit the fire and shared a hot stew. Their hands met as they passed utensils and served the food. Each touch was a reminder of their growing affection and the romance that emerged from sharing adventures and challenges in the snow. The night ended with his girl leaning against Leandro's chest. They watched the stars reflected in the snow, and the silence was full of emotion and tenderness. The shared experience had taught them trust, patience, and mutual care, cementing a strong, silent, romantic bond. Before sleeping, Sumina took Leandro's hand, and he held it gently. No words were needed. The gesture conveyed everything they felt: protection, affection, admiration, and a desire to face any adversity together, certain that their bond was irreversible. The night passed peacefully, with the wind softly striking the cabin and snow piling outside. His girl and Leandro fell asleep together, comfortable and protected. Adventure and danger had brought them together. But now intimacy and romance began to bloom in the calm after the storm. The sunrise illuminated the cabin with a pale, icy glow. His girl woke first, watching as the snow covered every branch and rooftop. Leandro was still asleep, and she smiled, feeling that after so many trials their bond was stronger than any storm. They decided to return to the village, aware that the people still doubted his girl. Every step on the fresh snow felt decisive, as if the whole world were waiting for their return to judge them. The tension mixed fear and hope in the cold air. Along the way, Sumina and Leandro found signs of a wolf trapped in a snare. Without hesitation, they worked together to free it. Every movement required coordination and patience, and their hands brushed several times, awakening unexpected warmth amid the intense cold. The freed wolf disappeared quickly into the forest, leaving an air of respect and mystery behind. His girl exhaled, and Leandro watched her, admiring her strength and sensitivity. The shared adventure gave them confidence and increased the intimacy that was growing between them without words. Upon reaching the village, people gathered, watching his girl with mixed looks of fear and curiosity. Leandro accompanied her firmly, making it clear that he would not allow anyone to intimidate her. His presence was a silent, powerful shield. The sheriff approached with a frown and authority. His girl lowered her gaze, but Leandro held her lightly, conveying security. In a calm voice, he explained how they had survived together in the storm, and how his girl had shown courage and wisdom by helping animals and people. Some villagers murmured in surprise. The story of his girl's bravery spread quickly, transforming distrust into respect. She remained calm, demonstrating that dignity requires no aggressive defense, only action and compassion that everyone could see and recognize. Later in the afternoon, a family approached, grateful. A child who had lost his dog was found thanks to his girl and Leandro. The gratitude in his eyes and the mother's smile reminded them that the adventure was not only about survival, but also about generosity and care. His girl and Leandro walked together toward the central square, where the villagers watched them attentively. Every glance they received was a small triumph, a silent acknowledgement of their courage and kindness. The snow continued falling softly, as if the sky was celebrating their safe return. Leandro discreetly took his girl's hand. She held it firmly, and a silent warmth ran through both their bodies. The closeness and mutual security were palpable, a reminder that they had overcome storms and adventures, and that their bond had evolved into something deeper. The improvised recognition ceremony was simple. Marta, Leandro's aunt, blessed their union before the community, highlighting bravery, trust, and shared care. Sumina and Leandro looked into each other's eyes, aware that every challenge had cemented their affection and mutual respect. After the ceremony, they walked back to the cabin, surrounded by the white blanket of snow. Every step was accompanied by soft laughter and comments about the recent adventure. The romantic bond strengthened with every gesture, every brush of hands, and every lingering look. Upon reaching the cabin, they lit the fire and shared a hot stew. Their hands met several times as they passed utensils. The everyday routine became a romantic ritual, a space where intimacy could grow without rush, based on care, trust, and tenderness. During the afternoon, his girl taught Leandro words from her language. He listened attentively and enthusiastically, fascinated by the richness and musicality of her culture. Each lesson was a bridge between different worlds, and every touch during the teaching added spark to their relationship. The wind increased outside, but inside the warmth and closeness protected them. His girl leaned against Leandro's chest, and he held her gently, ensuring every movement with care. The intimacy and trust became a refuge stronger than any external storm. During the night, they shared stories of their childhoods, laughter, and fears. His girl recounted legends of winter guardian spirits, and Leandro shared tales of horses and starry nights. The shared vulnerability deepened their connection, showing that true affection arises from trust and complicity. The next morning, they decided to explore a nearby forest before the sun set. Every step was measured and cautious, but also filled with excitement. His girl trusted Leandro completely, and he guided her with patience and protection, strengthening their romantic and adventurous bond. They found a partially frozen stream where they decided to rest. His girl observed the reflections of the water and sunlight. Leandro approached, and their hands intertwined casually as they shared a silent understanding. Every unspoken moment was charged with emotion and growing affection. As they moved on, a group of deer appeared in the distance. His girl explained the herd's behaviors, and Leandro listened, fascinated. The shared teaching and curiosity generated intimacy, and the romance arose naturally from the connection that had been forged between them. Upon returning, the village was covered in a bright white blanket. The villagers watched them with respect and admiration. His girl and Leandro understood that their union was not only personal, but also a symbol of courage, collaboration, and deep affection that transcended prejudice. In the afternoon, they decorated the cabin together. Every laugh, look, and accidental touch strengthened the romantic bond. Daily tasks became intimate moments where the day's adventure merged with building a home and a shared life. At nightfall, the snow fell softly, creating a magical silence. His girl rested her head on Leandro's chest, and he stroked her hair. The tranquility of the night was a perfect contrast to the adventure they had lived, consolidating love, trust, and tenderness. In the intimacy of the fire, Leandro held both of his girl's hands. Their eyes met, conveying silent promises. The story of survival, adventure, and courage had culminated in an affection that grew with every gesture, every look, every shared touch in the storm and the calm. Before sleeping, his girl whispered that with him she felt safe, protected, and understood. Leandro gently pressed his forehead against hers, responding without words that his promise was to always care for her. The adventure had ended, but their love and complicity were only beginning. The last glance out the window showed the snow falling softly over the sleeping world. His girl and Leandro embraced under blankets, aware that their home was not just the cabin, but the safe place they had found in each other's presence. The story concluded with the certainty that together they could face any literal or figurative storm. Their bond was invincible, forged in danger, adventure, and mutual care. A silent, deep, and authentic romance that the snow and time had only strengthened and solidified.